Order. Justin Matters.
Deputy Speaker, whilst new technologies can often be a force for good and when used correctly can enhance political debate, accountability and trust, they are too often in practice having the opposite effect. Social media in particular has helped fuel further division and facilitated levels of distrust, threats and intimidation towards elected representatives that have never been seen before. It has also opened up our political system and discourse to the wider world, with other countries able to use platforms to influence and interfere in our domestic political debate in ways that were not previously possible. Political discourse has become murky, legitimate political debate has become distorted by misinformation, with people no longer even able to agree basic facts. This represents an existential threat to liberal democracy. When misinformation spreads unchecked, when abuse is normalised and when accountability is lacking, confidence in our democratic institutions is significantly weakened, and that is what our foes want.
On that point,
I'll give one, yeah.
Can I just say how much I agree with the argument that he is making? I sit on the Human Rights Committee and we had Meta in front of us just last week, and I was very concerned at the answers they were giving when probed on the work that needs to be done to protect social media sites from foreign interference. Does he share my concerns that social media companies are not doing enough to tackle this issue on their platforms?
Just a minute.
I'm grateful for his intervention. In my experience, Meta don't care about the truth. We've heard from what the Honourable Member for Mid-Norfolk experienced. I've had the same experiences. Stuff goes up, it doesn't meet the threshold, it carries on, the lies continue to be propagated. Their indifference is a danger to our democracy and it absolutely needs tackling. So there are long-standing rules about how political parties can use paid-for advertising in the offline world, but we have effectively gone from where we have a banal political party broadcasts on the terrestrial channels to a virtual free-for-all in the online world. What does this lead to? Deliberate distortions, misleading claims and half-truths are pushed into social media's feeds with absolutely no checks on their accuracy and very little recourse, as we've heard, about challenging their spread.
With my honourable member, honourable friend.
I'll give one, yeah.
I thank you. I thank my honourable member, my honourable friend, for giving way. I think he's making an excellent speech. Does he agree with me that while we have the 1983 Representation of People's Act that makes it illegal to misrepresent a candidate in an election, this has yet to be proven online, and in fact, Ofcom and many platforms do not see themselves being bound by it?
Justin Matters.
I'm grateful for my honourable friend's intervention. The truth is we have got analogue laws for a digital age and they're just simply not fit for purpose. And that is exacerbated by the fact that social media companies' actual entire business models rely on outrageous comments to incentivise clicks. It actually amplifies the distortion of our political process. It actually encourages the controversial. So we absolutely need to go further to tackle this. The bill already has provisions tightening up rules on digital imprints on campaign material, but we also need greater transparency for online political adverts. There are straightforward changes that can be made, some of which have already been supported by the government, which could improve transparency, fairness and increase trust in our political system. And the first of these, as my honourable friend from Milton Keynes Central has already talked about, is actually an advert for libraries. We need an accessible database to act as a repository of all election advertising across all advertising platforms on the internet. This should include the content of the advert, the money put behind it to promote the content, the paying entity, and who the content is targeted at. At present, these are all opaque, with the only libraries available controlled by the media companies who can choose to stop sharing access. And as we've already heard, aren't really interested in ensuring that things are accurate and truthful when they're published. Similar models have been implemented in Canada and New Zealand already, and the EU will introduce their own later this month. Secondly, the government should introduce an amendment requiring candidates to follow a statutory code of conduct at elections, as well as including provisions to stop intimidation and harassment of candidates, as was suggested in the government's white paper last year. This should extend to commitments to telling the truth and not knowingly including misinformation in campaign material. I think putting all of this on a statutory footing and including steps on tackling misinformation will give it the teeth that it needs, because essentially we cannot defend democracy if our financial frameworks remain as they are, if our online spaces are unregulated in the way they are, I welcome the proposals for knowing your donor checks. I recognise and encourage the enforcement mechanisms that will be introduced by the Electoral Commission, but we absolutely need to go further. It is a positive step, this bill. Votes at 16, greater enfranchisement and registration, checking cracks in our democracy, better protecting candidates. These are all really welcome things, but the Honourable Member for Mid-Norfolk's experiences are, I fear, where we're going to be in 2029 if we don't crack down on this now. So I look forward to working with the Minister to explore ways that we can make this bill even better to protect our democracy and allow it to flourish, not just now, but in the future. Because our democracy is fragile. It cannot be taken for granted, and it has to retain the public's trust if it is to endure. There are many around the world who are working very hard to try and erode that trust, so we must be equal to the challenge and make sure that we've got the best legislation possible to meet that challenge.